home sellers should expect for their home to possibly take as long as 2 or 3, maybe 4 months to get sold during the first half of 2024. There's been a shift in Portland's real estate market. In particular, people are thinking about selling their houses during the first half of this year, and we're partway into the year now. It's February 2024. Sellers are going to have to know a few things. There have been some shifts in the market. I've covered a couple of those main shifts. I mean, one of them's obvious, as interest rates is having an impact in ways that is not necessarily obvious at first glance. Of course, payments that potential home buyers would have to pay if they are borrowing money to buy a house have gone up by quite a bit, a distinct amount. House prices also have been resilient in the face of higher interest rates. Those two things combined have really made it difficult for potential home buyers. I've covered also previously that potential home sellers who have low interest rates currently that they possibly got a few years ago, as long as 10 years ago, or they refinance, are not in a position where they want to get rid of that low interest rate to make a move if they don't have to move. I've covered all that before, but there are a couple of new things that really have started to impact the housing market, and in particular potential home sellers here in Portland, that sellers really need to be aware of. Home sellers really need to be aware of a couple of things that will impact their ability to sell their homes this year, and in particular during the first half of this year. It's the middle of February right now. Through the balance of the first half of this year, there's some things that have distinctly started to change. One of them is time on market. The average home sale of a single family house has started to take a little bit longer than what it has over the past couple of years. Time on market is not necessarily high. It hasn't been high over the past couple of months. It's been a little bit on the high side, adjusted for the time of year that it is. It has started to be the case over the past few months, though, that in combination with time on market being a little bit above the average over the past half a dozen years, the number of houses for sale has started to slowly increase in comparison with the speed with which they are getting sold. That metric, that is the number of houses for sale at the end of a given month divided by the number of home sales in that month, has started to increase. That metric is referred to as inventory. Inventory has started to increase, and distinctly so, over the past couple of months. It's not at a level where you need to be alarmed, but it is going to take longer, or it has been over the past few months, and that seems to be persisting. It has taken a little bit longer to get a single family home sold on average in Portland. That's something to be aware of.
Well, my neighbor's house sold in 5 days, and mine's better than that one, and so I'm not worried about it.
Are starting to be over. They're almost over. You really are going to have to do the best that you can as concerns curb appeal. Pricing also, setting a price that's realistic, where your house can get sold, where you can actually get showings, so that those showings could lead to a possible sale. Both of those things are going to be very important. Whereas in the middle of 2021, you could just put almost anything up for sale and get multiple offers. That really has slowed down. There still are multiple offers on a number of properties, but I've been looking for a change in the market, not just in price, or that sales volume is down and new listings are down also in number. What's going on is the time that it takes on average for a single family house to get sold in Portland has increased. That is combined also with an increasing inventory level. The number of months of the inventory in this January 2024, is in line with where it was during 2015 and 2019. So like I said, it's nothing to be alarmed about, but as you can see here, it is distinctly higher than what it had been for most of the months going back as far as about 2014. The same was true in December. The inventory is a little higher than what it had been over the past almost 10 years. The number of new listings coming onto the market remains low. This January is very low. It is the 5th lowest month going all the way back 9 years. So it doesn't matter what month it was, if we're talking about December, November, January, February. This January was the 5th lowest month as concerns the number of new listings coming onto the market. To put it into perspective, the number of new listings in January was only 58% of what it was in January on average during 2015 through 2021. Sales volume, in comparison with that same time period, that is, sales volume in December reached a very low point of down 50% of what had been typically the case, what had been average for that time period. In January, it was down 43%, which is huge. To put that into perspective, going all the way back 9 years, this January 2024 had the lowest sales volume out of any of those individual months. So the market definitely is slowed. And as I mentioned, combined with a rising amount of time it takes on average for a single family house to get sold, with an increasing level of inventory, the level of inventory and a rising number of days on market, those two things combined are things that should cause a home seller to understand that on average, it may take 2 months, it might take 3 months during April, May, and June to get a home sold. So let's say you list your house in March, it might take on average until June or even the end of June for a single family house in Portland, Oregon to get sold. Of course, an average is only an average. There will be home sales that occur over the course of a couple of days, 10 days, 2-3 weeks, a month, but some of them are going to take 3 or 4 months at this point in time. That's my expectation for the rest of the first half of this year. This January, the average single family sales price was $620,000. That's down from a high of a couple of summers ago in May and June, where the average single family sales price reached almost $750,000. It is up almost 7% since last January. Now keep in mind, this is something that I've covered previously, that the mix of what gets sold really impacts what that average sales price is. So if there are not a lot of higher end homes, a lot of higher priced homes getting sold, that'll drive the average price down, especially when the sales volume is so low. Like I mentioned, it is the lowest sales volume in any given individual month going all the way back 9 years. So the mix of what gets sold really does matter. If you were to compare it with a year in which there were 1,000 home sales in a given month, you'll see a more representative number as concerns the average single family sales price. When you're talking about a sales volume of almost as low as only 300 homes sold, that's really going to have an impact on what that average is. So if predominantly the things that are getting sold are more affordable homes, that's going to drive the average down. It doesn't necessarily mean that if a larger volume of sales were to occur, that average would not be higher. In any case, in comparison with last January, the average single family sales price is up 6.9%. So to put it into perspective, all those nasty headlines that we read over the past 2 years, 3 years, going back all the way to 2015, what I heard from people saying that they're going to wait to buy a home because even though interest rates were not bad, the market was in a bubble and the bubble was going to burst and prices were going to fall because the prices were so inflated. They were just going to wait to buy a house, and also headlines were saying similar things. And then eventually it became 2016, and then every now and then we'd read that there was going to be a crash. And then in 2017 we'd read that there's going to be a crash. And there's even a guy that comically has a whole YouTube channel committed to how the Earth's economy is going to collapse. Everything's going to hell. It's reventure capital or reventure consulting or something like that. It's absolutely ridiculous. But in any case, we are now starting to see the first indications of a major slowdown beyond, of course, sales dropping to 50% of what they were during the past half a dozen years. That's a big one. That sales volume has been decreasing, but we're starting to see enough metrics all going in the same direction. Increasing inventory. It's taking a little bit longer for houses to get sold. That combined with price stagnation, pretty much, if you're to look year over year, this January in comparison with last January, it is up some, but that's down from a peak of what it was in May and June of 2022. All those things combined, along with persistently high interest rates, we're back up to about 7.125%, according to Mortgage News Daily. All those things combined are leading to a situation in which home sellers should expect for their home to possibly take as long as 2 or 3, maybe 4 months to get sold during the first half of 2024. That puts us back in what a lot of people would have considered years ago, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, to be a normal home market, a normal sales market. We really have been living through over the past half a dozen years just a blisteringly hot market. Things are selling really, really quickly, obnoxiously quickly. We got down to a point where in Portland, Hillsborough, Beaverton, Gresham, Lake Oswego, just about everywhere. There were months in which the average number of days on market, that is the number of days it took for a home seller, a single family home seller, to sell their home, to accept an offer on their home, that is, of under 10 days. That was unreasonably quick. But in any case, we're back to what over the past 30 years would be considered a pretty hot market. It just has slowed down in comparison with where it's been over the past few years. Click the link below if you'd like to schedule a time to talk about Portland's real estate market. I'm John McPherson, principal real estate broker in Oregon. Subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with Portland's real estate market and things that impact your most valuable asset.